good now, okay?
Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Rhode Island House of Representatives Committee on Education. Today is Wednesday, March 3rd, 2021. Could the clerk please take the roll?
Yes, Chairman. Chairman McNamara.
Here.
Representative Barrows. Representative Amore. Representative... Okay. Representative Alzate. Representative Bia.
Could you get the pictures of the reps up? So
Representative Caldwell.
Present.
Representative Donovan.
Present.
Representative Fenton Fung. Representative Giraldo.
Present.
Representative Kislak.
Present.
Representative Noré. Representative Phillips.
Present.
Representative Ranglin Vassal. Representative Roberts.
Present.
Representative Shallcross Smith.
Present.
Did you get Rep. Amore?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. 1, 2,
Okay. Good
Yes,
afternoon,
fine.
ladies and gentlemen. We have one bill to consider today that we're going to be voting on, but before we get that, I am going to make a motion to hold the remainder of the calendar for further study. The reason we are doing this is to keep these bills alive within the bar of the committee, because when we hear from your testimony, very often we end up amending bills, and this gives us that ability to do that. So with that, I will make a motion to hold House Bill 5068, 5236, 5328, 5516, 5517, 5519, 5520, and 5604. I'll make that motion. Second by Representative Phillips. All those in favor, please signify. Okay, roll call vote. Okay. Roll call.
Okay. Chairman McNamara.
Yes.
Representative Barrows. Representative Amore.
Yes.
Representative Alzate. Representative Bia. Representative Caldwell.
Yes.
Representative Donovan.
Yes.
Representative Fenton Fung. Representative Giraldo.
Yes.
Representative Kislak.
Yes.
Representative Noré. Representative Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Ranglin Vassal. Representative Roberts.
Aye.
Can you repeat that, please? Representative Roberts.
Nay.
Representative Shallcross Smith.
Yes.
We have 8 in favor, Chairman, and 1 no.
Okay. So those bills will be held for further study. We have a bill to consider, House Bill 5079. House Bill 5709 was first heard before this committee on February 18th. And it is exactly identical to a bill that we worked on last year and was passed on the House floor during the last session. This act would allow school districts to request or accept donations from a student or the student's parents or legal guardians in whole or in part for the cost of a district-sponsored field trip, provided that the district would pay the cost to meet any deficits that remain after the effort to raise funds had concluded. It also ensures that no student will be left behind, and that field trips will go forward as they have for generations. Is there any discussion? Anyone have any questions on this bill? Seeing that there are no questions, I will make a motion for passage of House Bill 5079. I'll make that motion.
Second.
There's a second by Representative Giraldo. Do we need a roll call vote?
Yes, we do.
Roll call vote.
Chairman McNamara.
Yes.
Representative Barrows. Representative Amore.
Yes.
Representative Alzate. Representative Beer. Representative Caldwell.
Yes.
Representative Fenton Fung. Representative Giraldo.
Yes.
Representative Kislak.
Yes.
Representative Noré. Representative Phillips.
Yes.
Representative Ranglin Vassal. Representative Roberts.
Yeah.
I think you forgot me, Representative Donovan.
Oh, I'm sorry, Representative Donovan.
Yes.
Okay, Representative Roberts? Are you with us, Representative Roberts?
Yes, I'm sorry, what was the question?
Would you like to vote in the affirmative or the negative for the passage of 5079?
I already said yes, thank you.
Okay,
Yes.
sorry, I didn't hear you. And Representative Shallcross Smith?
Yes.
Representative Fenton Fung is on now, too.
Okay, Representative Fenton Fung, would you like to be voted in the affirmative of the two bills?
Yes, please, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 10 in favor, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. That's 10 in the affirmative, and the bill passes. It will be heard on the floor. The order of the next two bills, we have two representatives that are with us virtually. We're going to hear from Representative Lombardi, then Representative Carson. Representative Lombardi, welcome. House Bill 5520, an act relating to education curriculum. Welcome, Representative Lombardi. Representative Lombardi, unmute. Please.
Sorry, can you hear me now, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can, loud and clear. Welcome, Representative Lombardi. Please proceed.
Thank you. I was throwing flowery language at all of you. I was thanking you for the opportunity to speak before you. And obviously with COVID and how the paradigm of schools has changed this year, I think this is very important. Certainly the psychological well-being and the mental well-being of our children. So what this act would do is require the Department of Education to develop and make available school use of mental health curriculum. Schools would be required to provide 4 hours of mental health instruction to 7th grade students. And this would apply to all districts, private schools, mayoral academy, charter schools, and make available to website curriculum materials and such other materials as may assist local and regional school committees and governing bodies with regard to this information. And the curriculum material and the guidelines shall be developed by the Department of Education in consultation with groups and individuals having an interest in or expertise in the field of mental health and mental illness treatment. Excuse me. Every school district shall include in its curriculum for all 7th grade students a 4-hour unit. And school districts may utilize materials provided by the Department of Education, and the curriculum shall be provided for 2022 to 2023 of that year. And with that, Mr. Chair, I think it's so important with regard to everything that's happening, and even I can tell even in my practice of law, our children are being inundated with things that are just completely different. And, we don't want to lose this generation of children. We really, really don't. And, having been a former educator and, having my master's in secondary administration, which is in a galaxy far, far away, but that's where my passion was, always instructing and well-being of our children. Certainly, I was part of that, when I lost my parents very young, and especially in the inner cities, that our children just have so many different things going on, and we want to make sure that we don't lose them. And with that, Mr. Chair, I will endeavor to answer any questions if I can, if there are any. If not, I want to thank everyone for this, and please consider it. I think it's very important.
Thank you, Representative Lombardi, and certainly we can all see this bill is very timely, as you said, with the mental health needs, social emotional well-being of our students has really taken a beating during this pandemic. So thank you for that. Are there any questions? Representative Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Lombardi, just
Yes, sir.
just curiosity after hearing what your definition of that, do you already, or is there already a curriculum made up so that if this is passed, each school system will get the curriculum, or are they supposed to be making up their own curriculum? How is this going to work?
Well, I certainly left it to the school department, but again, I think as we go, Representative Phillips, we don't know. This is all evolving. With COVID, everything is evolving, so everything's on the table, and I just think that we need to do this forthwith, and that's why it's scheduled for 22, 23, which would give them at least a year, maybe a year and a half to put this curriculum. So I don't know the answer. I haven't asked anybody, but I would assume that there is something that if we don't have it, I'm sure some other jurisdiction may, and we can certainly. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel here. I think this is about getting our kids an opportunity to be children and to learn in a functional educational environment.
Okay, the follow-up, the follow-up comment is, my concern is that if we give each school system a canned type of curriculum, each school district is going to be different, have different needs and different wants and everything. Each student is going to be different. So I'm thinking that, the superintendent or school committee, or maybe even a group of teachers in a committee can come up with some sort of a curriculum that is curtailed to what their needs are.
And I agree, Rep, and that's the point. If we have some kind of a canned curriculum, that's fine. But each superintendent, each school committee, each administration of any school district has their own needs, wants, desires, and knows what their issues are. And at least there's a foundation to start from. My point is, you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Thank you, Chairman.
Well,
Thank you, Representative. And thank you, Representative Lombardi. Are there any further questions for Representative Caldwell?
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Lombardi, I think this is a great bill and a great idea, and like you said, really addresses a crisis that we have going on right now. What I love about it is that it incorporates the public, the charter, and all the private schools. My kids go to a school that really focuses on social emotional learning. They host a conference every summer about mindfulness and resilience, where they bring in experts to talk about it. And I think, institutions like that would love to be involved and be able to help, schools throughout the state. So I love the idea of all of those groups being able to come together and help each other through that process. So I thank you for introducing that. I think it's really important.
Thank you, Representative. As you notice, I tried to be inclusive because nobody has the answer. Again, some of us are flying by the seat of our pants to try and deal with these things. Some are better than others. Those of you that have children certainly know better than someone like me who doesn't have a child. But listen, there's no one answer here. There's no one size fits all. So that's why we need this is a chance for us to join hands and say, you know what? Forget charter school, forget public. We're all one, and our one is for the children, the safety, health, and well-being of the children of the state of Rhode Island. Let's not let them fall behind. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Lombardi. Yes.
I think
Representative
Lombardi
Giraldo has a question.
Thank you, Chairman. And Rep. Lombardi, thank you for putting this forward. 4 hours of instruction seems reasonable. It seems manageable. 7th grade sounds like the appropriate grade to do it. But can you just talk about how those numbers, how you came up with those numbers? Why the 4 hours? Why 7th grade? I think some of it is self-explanatory, but I just want to understand the thought process as to why 4 and not more or less. Thanks.
In my research and in my looking at how I'm dealing with younger people in the legal process, and even as a municipal court judge, and just as an elected official. I mean, I'm getting brought into things with families that it's like, wow. And so, again, I think what this is it's a foundation, and it will build, it will evolve, and it will turn into something. 4 hours may not necessarily be enough. It may be too much. But again, it would be on a case-by-case basis. But I think what we need to do is create the enabling legislation, which is what I think this does, to give the foundation for the 39 cities and towns in the state of Rhode Island to develop what's more appropriate for them. So Providence, that has, for example, 53 different languages spoken, we may need to do a lot more. Vis-a-vis, Burrillville, whatever. I mean, I don't want to compare or contrast, but obviously the issues in Providence are going to be a lot different than the issues in, Burrillville or Barrington or, whatever. And that's not to cast aspersions on anybody. So, yeah, it's just a foundation. That's what it
Representative
is.
Girardi?
Thank you.
Charles, excuse me.
Thank you for that, Chairman, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative, for that description. Just
You're welcome.
a quick follow-up. If a school district is already providing, or if a school system is already providing those 4 hours of mental health instruction, as long as it complies with the guidelines, rules, and regulations promulgated by the Department of Ed, then they're fine, and they're doing basically what they're supposed to. And this wouldn't necessarily impact them if they're already doing that, and it aligns with what RIDE comes up with. Am I correct in stating that?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative Lombardi. Are there any further questions?
Chairman.
Yes.
you,
Representative
Mr.
Barrows.
Rep. Lombardi, so.
Yes, sir.
So I have two-sided questions. So 4 hours, how does it fit in the normal curriculum of the day? On the course of a day, where do you incorporate those hours?
Well, those are for greater minds than me. That would be for the people that are the superintendents, the administrators, the teachers, the guidance counselors. I don't have a definitive answer for that, but I'm sure the normal course of business, whether it be health courses, phys ed, counseling, whatever that may be.
And then the other question the other statement I'm going to make is that the system is flawed with an awful lot of things. And if we keep saying that we're going to infuse 4 hours here, 4 hours there, I mean, we're going to make the school day a lot longer. And for me, of course, I mean, I have some particular things that I would like to see implemented in the school, and that is, Black history implemented in the school. We're putting all these little different pieces in there. So I don't know exactly how that's going to fit in. If everybody starts to put wants the little piece of the pie in the school, in the school day.
If you look at how it's entitled, it says instruction in health and physical education. I think in many instances, Representative, we've gotten away from that. I know when I was a young child 100 years ago in class, we had to take home economics. Gym was mandatory. Health was mandatory, and we're just getting away from that. We got to teach our children, especially in the inner city and the minority majority city in Providence. We need to give our children exposure to things that are positive rather than negative. And I think this is one area in which you can do it. That not everything has to be a fight, so to speak.
Very well said, Representative Lombardi. Are there any further questions for Representative Lombardi on this legislation? Representative Lombardi, thank you very much. I hope you're feeling better, and we look forward to seeing you in person soon.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, because I know everyone's heart's in the right place, because that's where my heart is with this. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. That concludes the hearing on 5520. The next bill that we're going to hear is House Bill 53. Oh, we have a call for that? Oh, excuse me, we did have a witness on the last bill. Oh, Andy Andre. We have Mr. Andrade, Rhode Island Department of Education. Welcome, Andy. Welcome, Andy, on 5520.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Thank you, sir. First of all, I want to begin by commending Rep. Lombardi for his advocacy. This is such an important issue, and I know he's been on this issue for a number of years. Now, his approach talks about doing 4 hours in grade 7. We take a different approach. I think it's very important that the committee realize that already in place, we have a document called the Comprehensive Health Instructional Outcomes. This is a very comprehensive document, and one of the main sections is mental health issues, and we actually have age-appropriate education for grades K through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 10, and 11 through 12. And just to give you a few examples, believe it or not, even grades K through 4, let me give you a description of some of the things that they're talking about. Identifying and applying ways to avoid and reduce situations threatening mental or emotional health, abuse and bullying, relationships with others, managing stress. K through, and again, this is just a small sampling of highlights, grades 5 through 8. Apply mental health promotion strategies to improve or maintain personal and family health, avoiding risky situations, roles and responsibilities of adolescents, refusal skills, setting limits. That's grades 5 through 8, and believe me, there's a lot more. Grades 9 to 10. Analyze mental health concerns that require individuals to work with others, suicide prevention, eating disorders, depression, and finally, 11 and 12, work cooperatively when advocating for mental and emotional health promotion, and even evaluating community health services and systems in place relating to mental health. My point is that we have a very, very robust set of guidelines, age appropriate, and mental health is one of the key components of that. So I want to make sure that the committee knows that there's already something very much in place. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to send every member of the committee when we're done a copy of this very expansive document. I think you'll feel better about what we're doing. And it's not just one grade, 4 hours. It's integrated into the curriculum right at the beginning, K through 4. The second component that I think is very, very important here is that the last couple of years we've been lobbying and there's been budget money for mental health professionals in the schools. We need more mental health professionals in our school system. Last year there was money for training for teachers and materials to help with that. I'm hoping that would be something that will be proposed again this year. I think it would be a great way to help, especially in these times of COVID and the mental stress that these students have every day. So again, I didn't want you to think that there's not a lot of things out there available for our students. And again, I'm going to send each and every one of you a copy of the outcomes so you can see what's being done at every grade level.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Andrade? Yes, Representative Barrows.
Happy birthday, Andy.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Yeah, happy birthday on behalf of the committee, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Andy, having said what you just said, so do you have a way of telling us whether all that particular policy that you have in place is currently working, or has it worked? Do we have any testament as to how it's working?
Well, you mentioned the flexibility of different districts. Certainly different districts do it differently. I can't say that it's consistent throughout, to be very honest with you. Some do it better than others. I don't know that we have a very good handle on that, to tell you the truth, but I will tell you it's all laid out for them to be able to do this correctly and consistently for students.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any further questions? Thank you. That concludes the hearing on 5520. And without objection, Representative Barrows would like to be recorded in the affirmative for the 2 votes that we have, and of course he's present here with us. Okay, thank you. So moved. And with that, the next bill we're going to hear is House Bill 5328 by Representative Carson, an act relating to education, school waste recycling, and refuse disposal. Welcome, Representative Carson of the great city of Newport. Please proceed.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Super. Okay. This is a bill that I've had in your committee, I think, once or twice before. And the bill seeks to do several things. The first thing it seeks to do is that it seeks to create and have free waste audits in all of the schools. Rhode Island Resource Recovery is agreed to do that. Rhode Island Resource Recovery has, they provide technical assistance to waste management groups around the state, and one of them is schools. And they'll come in and they'll do a waste audit every 3 years and provide that report to the school leadership as well as the school committees. And they will work with the school leadership to define strategies for minimizing their waste, for recycling and increasing composting. And they'll make sure that the schools are coming in compliance with state law on those things. The second thing that the bill does is it, when a school goes out for an RFP to recruit a food service organization, a management company for the district, the RFPs will require that the food management services will compost and recycle in those areas that they have responsibility for, the kitchen and the cafeteria, and they will purchase 10% local food so that we can try to support our farmers and our growers and a variety of food industries that are cropping up around the state. The next thing that the bill does is it deals with leftover food. Now, if you look at leftover food, we have about 20% of the waste product going into the landfill is food, which is absolutely amazing. And last year, not even in 2020, but in 2019, about 175,000 Rhode Islanders lacked access to food, and we know that COVID has really inflated that number. So what I'd like to see the schools do is set up what's called sharing tables, which you can Google. They're a very common thing. They occur a variety of places around the country in schools. And those foods that are eligible to be shared, largely contained food, wrapped food, granola bars, containers of milk, maybe fruit, those items can go on what's called the sharing table. And the kids can, take whatever they want. And they can just go up to the sharing table and have an extra apple or take a glass of milk. If that doesn't happen, that food's going in the garbage. Now, I've told this story before to this committee that about 3 years ago, the Newport Energy and Environment Committee did a waste audit on our only grammar school. We have one grammar school in Newport. And in one day that they did the audit in the grammar school, there were 43 pounds of food that could have gone on the sharing table. And that's self-contained foods that comply with state law to be passed along. So I don't know, we have how many schools in the state? About 105? The chairman probably knows that better than I do. So if you multiply 43 pounds times 5, that's 200 pounds a week that Newport is perhaps throwing in the garbage. Now let's talk about garbage for a minute. As I said, 20% of the waste stream is garbage that's going into the Johnson landfill. Not all food that goes into the landfill is edible, but we want to try to capture that food that is. I know maybe some of you know that the landfill is really on a limited life. Depending on how much waste we generate, it either accelerates or it slows down how much life we have in the landfill. And the best guess is that we have somewhere between 15 and 20 years left on the Johnson landfill, and we are going to be challenged in the future about what to do with our waste when that happens. Now, if we can keep food out of the landfill, we can do several things. We can extend the life of the landfill. We can get food into the mouths of hungry children and hungry families. And that will be good for our municipalities, who currently are paying $47 a ton to take garbage to the landfill. And one of my favorite stories of this bill is that, in communities where free food is provided, particularly in my district, where about 60 to 70% of the children in school are getting free lunches. We're buying their food with taxpayer money. We're throwing it away. We're paying to take it to the landfill, and kids are still going hungry. This is really, in my opinion, a ridiculous cycle. And I'm trying to with this bill, I'm trying to stop that cycle. I'm trying to encourage composting and recycling in the schools themselves with the help of Rhode Island Resource Recovery to design strategies. I'm trying to capture food that's legally able to be reused and get it into the mouths of hungry children. I think it's a teaching moment, this bill. It's absolutely a teaching moment. It will teach kids how to recycle, how to compost, and there are resources to help. So I'm hoping that this year we might be able to get this bill over the finish line.
Are there any questions for Representative
Thank you very
Carson?
much.
We have 3 witnesses. Representative Phillips.
Thank you. Representative Carson, just a little concerned, maybe a suggestion about the sharing table.
Yeah.
And with the pandemic going on, I think there are a lot of people, students included, that might be leery of taking the food off the sharing table because of everything we've been told about COVID and everything. But would it be amenable to you to possibly put a sub-A in that says, in cases of pandemic or health issues, we suspend the sharing table until
Absolutely. Good point. I didn't think of that. Thank you very much.
All right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Representative Carson. Thank you, Chairman.
Are there any questions virtual? I know Representative Carson, in my years in Pawtucket, especially at the secondary level, we had so much food insecurity, and it was 100% free and reduced, so everyone was eligible, that any food that was thrown away, the students would come to me and just constantly complain, and our vendor was Sodexo, and I spoke to them about it. I said, our students have hungry brothers and sisters at home. They'd like to take this leftover, like say, let's just take American chop suey, standard fare. And they were adamant about, we have to follow these federal procedures to throw it out. So I was looking for it to see if there were any vendors that signed up on this, but I would be interested to hear from them. We do have 3 witnesses. So,
May I speak to that, Chairman, please?
yes.
I left something on my printer, I'm sorry, that I wanted to share with folks, but in 2019, Representative Marzlikowski led a study commission on food waste. Some of you may remember that. And we did pass a law and sign into law an immunity bill around the sharing of particular types of foods, and the purpose was to incentivize not throwing food away. So, and my bill complies with that law that we passed 2 years ago.
Okay.
The language is identical, actually.
All right. We do have 3 witnesses. Greg Garrett. Mr. Garrett. Mr. Garrett, welcome.
Thank you.
To the House Committee on Education. This is House Bill 5328, an act relating to education, school waste, and recycling. Please proceed.
Thank you. Representatives, my name is Greg Garrett. I live in Providence. I am the longtime director of the Rhode Island Compost Initiative. I've recently stepped down. I'm no longer running the annual compost and conference and trade show. But over the years, I've seen the compost industry grow from one business to about 15. And one of the reasons that it grew was that, one, we talked the resource recovery into raising tip fees, which is a good thing because it was too inexpensive and filling up fast. And this way we have a chance for food scrap to go other places. I strongly support the sharing tables. Many, many places do them. I strongly support the other parts of this. The one thing I want to just point out is that at the end of the bill, there's a section that reduces the amount of food that gets thrown away before a business or an institution has to compost it rather than continuing to send it to the landfill. And I totally agree that we should be reducing that number. The bill goes from 104 tons a year to 30 tons a year, which means that if you're producing 30 tons a year, you're still producing 600 pounds of food scrap a week. It's worth it to collect that 600 pounds of food scrap and get it composted. So I strongly urge passage of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett, and thank you for the work that you've done. I know hundreds and hundreds of hours volunteering for Providence, personally collecting materials for your compost. So on behalf of the committee, I'd like to thank you for that. Are there any questions for Mr. Garrett? Thank you. The next witness is Mr. Dave McLaughlin. He's not answering? So in support of this bill, James A. Corwin and Mr. Dave McLaughlin of Clean Ocean Access has submitted a letter in support, and the Rhode Island School Recycling Club is also supportive. So with that, that concludes the hearing on House Bill 5328. The next bill that we're going to hear is House Bill 5516 by Representative Perez. I don't know if Representative Perez is on the line. 5516. So this legislation by Representative Perez would authorize the City of Providence to have an elected school committee as opposed to an appointed school committee. We have one witness, Mr. Randall Rose. No answer from Mr. Rose? Okay. Does anyone have any questions? I'll try to answer on this bill. Hearing none, that concludes the hearing on 5516. Is Mr. Rose on? Mr. Rose? Mr. Rose? Mr. Rose, welcome.
Yes.
Welcome. This is on Representative Perez's bill, elected school committees in Providence. Please proceed.
Yes, my comments will be very brief. I'm in support of the bill. I think it's very important for Providence parents to have a voice in the education of their children, just like in most cities and towns in the state. So I think that this bill is a very good idea. So for those reasons, I'm supporting the bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this witness? For Mr. Rose? Hearing none, that concludes the hearing of 5516. The next bill that we're going to hear is 5517 by Representative Tobin. Is Representative Tobin available? 5517. We do have a couple of witnesses on this. This legislation would mandate all high school students have a public demonstrate proficiency in computer science. It's computer science proficiency for high school graduates. Mr. Andrade will be the first witness. Welcome, Mr. Andrade, 5517.
Okay, sir, I'm ready. Again, this is a bill we've had for a long time, and when I look back on it, Chairman, it just amazes me how far we've come in Rhode Island in terms of the area of computer science. It actually really began in 2016 when Governor Raimondo launched the CS computer science for Rhode Island. And so much has happened. There's so many more kids that are interested and involved in computer science. Just some numbers, and actually might even be a little bit old, but before that program, computer science was only offered in 9 public high schools in Rhode Island, and only 1% of high school students were enrolled in computer science. And today, almost over 80% of high schools offer a course. It's probably even higher than that, and one of the highest percentages in the country. And one of the things that has been great through this program is we've had yearly summits on this. In the last 3 years, we've had over 2,000 students attend these summits. There's a lot of great enthusiasm for computer science, and I applaud Rep. Tobin for bringing this to the light. We support his legislation.
Are there any questions for Mr. Andrade? Yes, Representative Barrows.
Andy, if you have...
Yes, sir.
If you have this information, where do we rank in terms of proficiency in the country?
I don't have that, but I will certainly get it for you, Rep. Tubon. So you're looking for proficiency
and ranking yeah.
And okay, let me see if I'm sure we can get you something on that.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Andy.
My pleasure. You're welcome.
I know Representative Barrows, when I was an administrator in Pawtucket, anytime I had any questions about my computer operations, et cetera, my students were so competent. They helped me a great deal. Very competent. Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's great. But thank you very much, Mr. Andrade.
My pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
The next witness is Katie Hendrickson, and she is with code.org. Welcome, Ms. Hendrickson.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Please proceed.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be able to speak with the committee today. I represent Code.org. We are a national nonprofit focused on expanding computer science education access and opportunity, particularly for students from underrepresented groups in computer science. We strongly support House Bill 5517. We have been following the CS for Rhode Island movement and initiative for the past several years, and I won't repeat what has already been said in testimony, but we see this as being an incredible next step for keeping Rhode Island as a leader in K-12 computer science education. I can't speak to where Rhode Island ranks in terms of proficiency, but among all 50 states plus DC, Rhode Island is second in access to computer science.
Wow.
By the data that we collected last year, 86% of Rhode Island high schools are already teaching at least one foundational computer science course. And I heard that some of that data reporting may have been spotty, so it could even be closer to 100%. So that said, even though students have access, and it is in most schools, there's still some disparities within who takes the computer science courses. And that's why this bill would expand computer science to every student and will help to mitigate some of those disparities. Again, we strongly support, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Hendrickson. Are there any questions for Ms. Hendrickson? Thank you very much for your testimony. That concludes the hearing on 5517. The next bill that we're going to hear is House Bill 5068 by myself and Representative Barrows. And Representative Barrows brought this to my attention that the bill originates, as Representative Barrows would say, like all good things from Pawtucket. And their school committee sent a resolution to all of us, and it relates to healthy buildings, schools, and grounds. And this act would promote healthy school buildings and grounds by prohibiting the use of certain appliances in school buildings, by requiring that all newly purchased equipment and appliances comply to high product Energy Star program ratings, and it would require that all school electronic devices, including computer images and devices, TV and audio systems, meet the EPAT rating system, meaning they do not have compounds in them that can be harmful to children, and that they are deemed green devices and safe. And Representative Barrows is a longtime employee for the Pawtucket School Department, 37 years, and one thing I will say, for an urban school district, and I use Potter Burns as an example, the buildings are old, some almost 100 years old. The people of Pawtucket have, throughout the years, committed and voted for bonds that have updated those schools, including new HVAC systems at Tolman High School and Shea High School, new roofs on the schools, and little things, and it's not a little thing, it's a major thing when you're a student or a teacher in a building that has ventilation problems. And Pawtucket was front and center on that and investing in their buildings. So it may seem to some people out there saying, wow, an urban school committee that's concerned about these environmental issues, but I give credit for Pawtucket and Representative Barrows and Alzate, members of this committee, for advocating for that. Representative Barrows, do you have anything to add?
No, I think you said it also eloquently, so how can I top anything?
Well, thank you. So, if anyone has any questions, I will answer those questions, and I know the superintendent supports it. And certainly I know that Representative Amore in the new East Providence High School, especially the Amore wing, will have complied to all of these standards.
That is a top-notch tech wing in our building.
No questions. Thank you. That concludes the hearing on 5068. The next bill that we're going to hear is 5236. It is a bill that has been requested by the Superintendent's Association, and we have two witnesses on it. It creates a special legislative commission to study and provide recommendations to help stabilize costs and other factors associated with the Rhode Island cities and towns and the student transportation. It lists the committee. We have two witnesses, Andy Andrade and Tim Ryan. Before we start, Mr. Connell, I would like to add union representation in this bill. We, I believe, have received correspondence, which I forwarded to you. I know that there are a couple of unions involved, and they would like a seat at the table, and certainly they're an important voice that we want to hear from. Are there any questions from the committee for myself on this bill? Seeing none, then this time I will call on Mr. Andy Andrade of RIDE. Mr. Andrade, welcome. Please proceed. Mr. Andrade, welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this bill could not be more timely. I got to tell you, we're very pleased that you're doing this. We're very pleased to be a member of the commission. You know, there are a number of issues involved in transportation. And just a little bit of a background, as you know, RIDE does provide statewide transportation for schools attending schools outside their district. And one of the initial reasons for the statewide program is to do things like maximizing sharing of buses and really to achieve cost efficiencies. And one of the things, just to make a couple of issues that this committee is going to have to look at. You know, we've talked about foster care transportation. That's a big issue. There's a shortage of vendors, Mr. Chairman. That's really putting us at a disadvantage in terms of competition. And, you know, one of the things that, if you remember, the governor did an executive order allowing Rhode Island to use Massachusetts and Connecticut buses during the emergency, during the COVID pandemic, because there was a shortage. And we're going to continue to ask for that. in the future. Finally, you mentioned in the bill that the funding formula could look at transportation being included, and I think that that's something that we definitely should look at. So we can definitely provide data, information that will be important to the committee as we make decisions, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Andrade? Thank you. Mr. Tim Ryan, Rhode Island Association of School Superintendents. It's all right. Welcome, Mr. Ryan. Please proceed. House Bill 5236, the transportation resolution.
Thank you, Chairman McNamara. Members of the Education Committee, my name is Tim Ryan, and I represent the Rhode Island School Superintendents Association. And I want to thank the sponsors, particularly Chairman McNamara and Representative Amore, for sponsoring this bill. The funding formula, as Mr. Andrade said, when it was initially approved over a decade ago, did not include transportation. And part of the logic of that was a local decision. Some communities provided very little transportation if the kids could walk to school. But over that time, since the funding formula was passed, a lot of changes have occurred. One of them is the new federal law, the Every Child Succeeds Act, which we provide transportation for children under DCYF care back to their original school of origin.
Yep.
And another is that with statewide transportation, we provide an opportunity for districts to share costs to send children to the school for the deaf or career and tech centers, special ed settings and the like. And as Mr. Andrade mentioned, we have fewer bus companies. So the cost of our contracts has been way up, in many cases over 20% higher than the previous year. So this idea of the legislative commission is very, very important. Categoricals have been given to the districts for transportation, but they haven't kept up over time. So there's a challenge for our rural communities with their costs. There's a challenge for our urban communities with the ESSA transportation. And the timing is really very important as we deal with increased costs and demands on our transportation system. So I'm greatly appreciative if the legislature could support this special commission and we can gather a lot of information to determine whether or not we should put this in the funding formula or how we're going to proceed with transportation. I want to thank you very much, Chairman McNamara.
Are there any questions for this witness? Thank you very much. That concludes the hearing on 5236. The next bill we're going to hear is 5519 by Representative Tubon. This act would require all students in kindergarten through grade 12 to perform a minimum amount of community service each school year and would grant them options to perform certain forms of community service for credit. We have numerous witnesses on this bill. We have, are there any questions that I can answer from anyone? Okay, let's start. Senator Rourke? Senator Rourke is in support of this bill. The next individual is David Acoin from Family Policy Alliance, who is opposed. Any luck? Welcome, David. In opposition to 5519, Family Policy Alliance. Please proceed. Welcome, David. Please proceed. Hello? Welcome, David. Welcome. Move on to the next one. Welcome, Mr. O'Coin. Please proceed.
Hi, I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak to you. I want to speak in opposition to H5604, and many of the reasons, there's many reasons, but probably the biggest one is it actually sexualizes children.
Excuse me, this is the wrong bill. This is 5519, mandatory public service.
Then whoever connected me to the wrong people, because I signed up to speak to H5604.
Is he on that as well?
There's a problem here because this is the bill, but this is the bill up here, but these are the bills here. There's a problem. The bill numbers are wrong.
Okay. Okay, 1 minute, David. We'll get you back to this. So what?
Do you want to call me back when it's time, or?
Yeah.
Yes, we will. What?
Okay, great.
Thank you. That concludes the hearing on 5519. Beautiful. That was easy. I said, wow, all these people are signed up to oppose to community service? What's happening to the country? Okay, so now 5604. Okay, could I have that, please? Yes. Okay. But here's the bill everyone's been waiting for, Representative Kislak. And the best shall be last. House Bill 5604, an act relating to curriculum by our very own Representative Kislak. Representative Kislak, welcome, and please take your time, as much time as you need.
Yes, thank you so much, Chairman and members of the committee. This bill comes to us from my constituent, Senator Tiara Mack. It's a good bill, and I am pleased to bring it to the committee for discussion and deliberation today. This legislation would set expectations of sex ed curriculum in our schools. Our kids deserve positive and supportive curriculum that is inclusive of all genders and sexual orientations. The comprehensive health outcome standards that Andy Andrade from RIDE referenced earlier some of this is in there, but also we could stand to update these standards in order to ensure that our health teachers have both the curriculum and the support they need to implement what is in this bill. So here's what's proposed. This legislation describes best practices. Well, actually, best practice would be a kindergarten through grade 12 inclusive curriculum, a lot like the Our Whole Lives curriculum that the UU Church has developed and uses. This bill is also aligned with the World Health Organization standards for sex education. I went virtually to a sex ed research conference last week as I was getting ready to present this bill, and I am not a sex educator. I am looking forward to hearing from sex educators, but I wanted to learn more, and there are recent articles also in the Journal of Adolescent Medicine that I can provide the committee that describe some of what's proposed here as best practices. So this is important for our kids and for their lives, and it's what our kids need and deserve. That's a pretty good introduction to this bill. I know that Senator Mack is here tonight to testify on behalf of her bill too, and it appears there are a number of folks both in support of and opposed to this bill that we'll hear from tonight too.
Very good, Representative Kislak, and it brings back old memories reading this, particularly subsection C. I remember the debate on the House floor when that language was added, and the last time we debated this statute, and you are in very good company in amending it. The last representative to amend this statute was approximately in 1996, a young state representative from Providence named David Cicilline, Congressman Cicilline. So you're really,
He used to hold this seat, and I'm honored to, and not surprised that he also addressed this.
At that time, we had a robust debate, so it's always a subject that interests the masses. So congratulations on the bill. And are there any questions for Representative Kislak from the members before we start the witnesses? And we do have quite a few, including 2 senators. Seeing no questions, we did call Senator Rourke from, excuse me, not the senator, what am I saying? We did call, it's Representative Rourke, Senator Mack. Could we get Senator Mack on?
This is Senator Mack.
Oh, welcome, Senator Mack, to the Rhode Island House of Representatives Committee on Education.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Please proceed.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the Education Committee on the House side and to my representative, Rebecca Kislak, for sponsoring this legislation on the House side. I am really excited to have it presented on the Senate side. Sex education is something that is super important to me. As someone who grew up in the conservative Christian South, I received abstinence-only sex education. When I went to Brown University as a freshman from a conservative Christian household, I had no idea how to talk about my body and my autonomy and all of the things that my peers were talking about. On top of being a formerly low-income Black student on campus, I felt ostracized because my peers could have big and bold conversations about their identity, about their sexuality, and about what made them tick, and be able to engage with their surroundings in the college campus. It was after my freshman spring that I decided to start teaching sex ed in local Providence high schools, and it was one of the best decisions I've ever made in my entire life, and it's actually why I am a state senator today. Being able to equip young people, especially 14 and 15-year-olds in the state of Rhode Island, with comprehensive, queer, inclusive, and affirming care, not only showed them that there were people in their lives that they could trust, but it also showed them how they could use their voice, their agency, and their autonomy to engage with the political system, similar to what we're doing today. You are going to hear powerful testimony from young people later today, and you're going to hear more stories about how engaging with difficult conversations and engaging conversations about our body, our autonomy, and what makes us who we are, who we love, and making that the most inclusive conversation possible will only empower our young people with the best education possible. We need to make sure that we're empowering them not only with the sciences and with math and English, but empowering them with the tools that they need to engage in their communities and feel comfortable and confident doing so. I am really excited to introduce this legislation and hope you all consider it. And I am looking forward to the powerful young people who are also standing in solidarity with this legislation. And thank you so much for your time. I look forward to hearing the rest of the conversation.
Thank you, Senator Mack. Are there any questions for Senator Mack? Thank you very much, Senator. And we're going to go from the top alternating to go to David, yep. Thank you very much for your testimony, Senator.
Thank you. Bye.
We'll get David back on. I'll tell him, yeah, we're going to alternate. Okay. David, welcome. This is the correct bill, 5519. Please proceed.
Oh,
5604, excuse me. This is the bill you want to testify on. I've got the wrong number on the sheet.
5604.
That's correct, 5604. We're on the right bill.
Okay.
Please
All
proceed.
right. Well, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and what I'd like to say about it is that I'm very much opposed to this bill. I represent the Family Policy Alliance of Rhode Island, and when I look at the addition, I think we're supposed to have we're supposed to promote an abstinence-based curriculum. And on a positive note, I think that would be great. There are many sexual risk avoidance curriculums out there that would help students to learn more responsibility when it comes to sex. But this bill says, provided further courses in family, life, or sex education shall be appropriate for students of all races, genders, sexual orientations, ethnic and cultural backgrounds, affirmatively recognize pleasure-based sexual relations. And that part right there, I think most parents would be opposed to. It promotes pleasure-based experiences rather than being preventative and avoiding sexual problems. So I think some of the things that I highlight on there, it actually teaches kids to consent to sex. When you look at some of the curriculums that I've seen in that vein, it normalizes anal, oral sex. It encourages homosexual and bisexual sex, and we're talking about 6th grade to 7th, 8th, 9th grade, right? Promotes masturbation. It promotes condom use. It doesn't establish abstinence as a goal, and really that's what our state recommends. It actually gender confusion, teaches about contraception. The thing, too, is that it actually teaches, and I've seen this, I've actually talked with some people from the education department, the former director of ed in Rhode Island, and they go around parental rights. So if a student, a minor, wants to receive hormone treatments or get they can get whatever help that they want, and the parents don't have to be notified. And I've read it in the material for the state that if a teacher or a guidance counselor thinks that a student will not be accepted at home if they declare some of their intents, then the parent doesn't have to be notified. And so what that means is that a student, if he or she does not feel that their parent is going to accept a desire to go on puberty blockers or receive hormone treatments, then the parent doesn't have to be notified. So I think there are a lot of things with this. What I'd rather see is more sticking to what we're supposed to be doing and maybe do it better, promote sexual risk avoidance. Because when you think about it, most parents want their kids to make responsible decisions, and minors don't always understand some of the consequences of their behavior. And so abstinence-based, teaching kids to restrain themselves. The number one poverty indicator of poverty in America is single-parent homes. And so when we start promoting sex with our kids, you deserve the right to experience pleasure without the responsibility that goes with it. I just think that that's dangerous. So when I look at this, there's so many things that are wrong with it. And I think, and just one more thing, many parents, you could take Muslim, Christian, Hindu, don't believe spiritually that this is a good thing for kids to have the right to have sex and whenever they want it. And so I just think our First Amendment rights right off the bat are violated by going this route. And I think it would leave our state open to a lot of legislative action. I think there would be a lot of lawsuits from parents with the kind of fallout that would come from this. So that's just what I have to say. I'd so much rather see our state promote sexual risk avoidance curriculums rather than actually things that encourage kids to have sex.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Coyne. Are there any questions for Mr. Coyne? Seeing none, next witness will be Stephanie, I believe it's Muse. And for the witnesses, could you try to be, could all of the witnesses try to be concise? Try to limit your testimony to around 2 minutes, please. So be concise, make your point, and try not to repeat. Welcome, Stephanie. Please proceed.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Stephanie Muse. I'm a Rhode Island parent and educator, and I'm here this afternoon to express my personal opinion on House Bill 5604. I really appreciate that this bill will expand mandated sexual health education to grade 6 from grade 9. And I especially appreciate the hard work that legislators Mack and Kislak and others have put into making sure that this bill ensures that all sex ed curriculum is inclusive. I think that's a really beautiful part of this proposed bill. However, if we are taking the time to pass legislation on sexual health education in Rhode Island, I want to make sure that we take the time to make sure it's comprehensive and that it matches the most recent and accurate research about health and sexuality education in schools. And so despite this bill's clear improvements, I have to push back here because, in my opinion, this bill fails really in 2 places. So first, comprehensive sex education, it really starts in kindergarten, happens across the year, every single year, and then ends in grade 12. There is extensive national guidance released by the Sex Ed for Social Change, a national task force including experts in adolescent development, healthcare, and education that provide a framework for key topics and messages that all sex ed programs should ideally include. And those are obviously appropriately spread to where it's developmentally appropriate to address certain issues, but that spans from grades K to 12. And there is no reason why any sex education bill introduced in the state of Rhode Island should not match that guidance, especially since RIDE's current health content standards actually already span grades K to 12. So please include grades K to 12. We need sex ed before 6th grade. Most children hit puberty before then. Second, the language of teaching abstinence as preferred method of preventing pregnancy and STDs in the bill, that has been well researched to not actually be best practice for teaching students how to prevent pregnancy or STDs. I'm not sure if you all know this, but according to the Journal of Adolescent Health, over the last 10 years nationally, the percent of youth who had received formal instructions about how to say no to sex but received absolutely no instruction about birth control methods increased over the last 10 years. And it's well known and well researched that abstinence-only sex ed is detrimental to student and public health outcomes. And the way that this bill is written really leaves too much space for districts to provide abstinence-only or abstinence-centered health education. And I know that Rhode Island has these really comprehensive and progressive content standards that were referred to earlier, and that historically Rhode Island has even told districts that they can't teach abstinence-only curriculums. But I really think that this law leaves too much space for districts to make decisions that would be detrimental to student and public health outcomes. So even though that these guidelines exist and this bill is an improvement, it's really not comprehensive enough in my opinion. So I'm in opposition of passing the bill as it is written today and must kindly request a bill based on best education practice and maximizing positive public health outcomes and hope that that is delivered in its place. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. And if you have any of that information from the best practice, feel free to forward those links to us so we can give them to the sponsors of the bill. I'm sure they'd be interested in looking at that and expanding the bill. So thank you very much. Are there any questions for Stephanie? Thank you very much, Stephanie. And before the other witnesses take place, we have quite a few witnesses. So I'm going to ask everyone to try to be concise and keep your remarks to approximately 2 minutes. So the next witness is Ms. Schneck from Generation Z, We Want to Live. I like that. Let's hear from Generation Z. Welcome.
Hello.
Rachel.
Yes.
Please
Hello, my
proceed.
name. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jayshell Schenk. I am the co-founder and executive director of the youth organization Gen Z We Want to Live. I am a 16-year-old youth activist and a junior at the Met High School. Today, I'm here to talk to you about a policy brief that Gen Z actually proposed back in September of 2020, focused on ensuring an inclusive and useful sex ed education for all. A comprehensive and intersectional approach to sex education is critical to ensuring the safety and well-being of all students. With such an intimate matter, the potential for long-lasting negative impact is high. Despite the fact that majority of parents support comprehensive sex education across the board, there are still a plethora of groups that oppose it. Clearly, the work has been effective. In the Rhode Island Department of Education, it is stated that abstinence from sexual intercourse is the preferred sexual behavior for adolescents. This begs the question, preferred by whom? As abstinence programs are really not effective. In reality, a comprehensive curriculum lowers the risk of pregnancy and is responsible for other positive behaviors such as higher grades and increased attendance. Consensual sexual activity is a healthy and normal part of life, and that's a fact. The current sex education curriculum does not treat it as such, instead using thinly veiled, sex-negative language. As such, the expression of feelings, including love, is a matter of choice and should not go against personal values. Ultimately, Rhode Island does not have a comprehensive curriculum as it favors explicitly abstinence. While no one is asking for schools to encourage their students to engage in sexual behaviors, at the end of the day, it is really the responsibility of all of our school systems to impart any recommendation at all. Rather, a school should provide students and teenagers with the tools to make their own science-backed, informed decisions, whatever those may be in a non-judgmental and comprehensive manner. One of the most vulnerable groups to support sexual education is the LGBTQ+ community. While the current curriculum does require factual and comprehensive discussions on sexual orientation.
Okay, Ms. Schneck, if you could just, in conclusion, you're doing great, just a real strong finish. Please proceed.
In conclusion, nearly 90% of students reported not learning any information on LGBTQ+ students, meaning that we need to continue to educate our students on sexual education, which is important to them and needs to continue to be taught in a manner that is inclusive and useful to them.
Excellent. Are there any questions for Ms. Schneck? Well, thank you very much. Please tell Dr. Leckie that I was asking for him. Representative Giraldo has a question for you. Representative Giraldo.
Yeah, not really a question, just a comment. Just want to say great job presenting. Very well thought out and structured response, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you so much.
Are there any further questions? Thank you very much for your testimony. Next, we have David Mitchell. Welcome, Mr. Mitchell. Please proceed.
Thank you. Hi, honorable representatives. Thanks for taking the time today to listen. I'd like to quickly share my experience as a parent of 6 children from ages 15 to 27. So I've been down this road many, many times. For sex ed to be effective, it really needs to take place in a safe space where there can be a two-way dialogue, ideally by parents or by school counselors, where there can be kind of a two-way discussion, the asking of questions and acceptance, and attempting to do this in a classroom is just going to really put at-risk students in jeopardy of being teased and bullied. While I think our teachers are superheroes, we really can't expect our teachers to do everything. Can you hear me okay?
Yep. Proceed. Keep going.
And if we're going to ask our teachers to take our students on this journey, we should do it like a field trip to a local museum and have the parents be asked to sign a permission slip with a link to the online curriculum. And just like a field trip, can create some sort of risk, I think parents really need to opt in for something like this. In addition to being a parent of 6 children, I'm also the president of the Little Flower Home. The Little Flower Home is a charity for pregnant and homeless women. In order to get into our shelter, a guest needs to be both pregnant and homeless. So I've had a lot of experience with pregnant women. Almost all of our guests are below the poverty line. We've helped over 800 guests since we opened, and many of our guests have a long history with DCYF and require massive amounts of social services, which is a massive drain on our state and government resources. Knowing what I know and working with homeless pregnant women, if our state goes forward with comprehensive sex education, we're definitely going to need to increase the size of DCYF.
That is 2 minutes.
Yep, thank you. I'll just wrap up with one final thing for the team here. That, you know, I've worked for a Southern California, Silicon Valley software company, and STEM is really important for our schools. A choice to do one thing is a choice not to do something else, and I really encourage a push on STEM to enable minorities to shatter barriers and, you know, start earning some six-digit salaries here in Rhode Island. So again, thanks for listening. I appreciate the time today.
Thank you, Mr. Mitchell. Are there any questions for Mr. Mitchell? Thank you very much. Next we have, I see Brian. Welcome, please proceed.
Can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Hello, my name is Ilsa Brian. I'm a sophomore at Classical High School and an intern with the STARS program at Planned Parenthood. As a peer sex educator for STARS, or students teaching about responsible sexuality, my job is to provide a reliable, safe space for comprehensive and confidential sexual education about sex and relationships. Unfortunately, this job is very necessary because students in Rhode Island schools do not have the resources that are providing them with good curriculum. In my personal experience, all of my sexual education has come through Planned Parenthood or my family. However, many students do not have the access to these resources, and it is evident that our sexual education system is failing them. As a peer sex educator, I find myself teaching basic information that students should have learned in middle school, including simple understanding of reproductive anatomy. This lack of comprehensive sex education actively puts Rhode Island students in danger.
Melanie Dyer.
And our school system's failure to provide comprehensive sexual education curriculum especially endangers queer and LGBT students who are often excluded from the little sexual education that is provided. I've spoken to fellow students that did not know that queer people could contract STIs because they believed that they were only transmitted through heterosexual sex. I am coming here as a 16-year-old girl saying that abstinence-only education does not work. By denying queer students sexual education resources, our school system is disadvantaging them in comparison to their heterosexual and cisgender peers.
Excuse me, that's 2 minutes, so.
In conclusion.
Please pass the bill. Students deserve a good sex education. Thank you.
Great finish. You're a good role model for the other witnesses. Are there any questions for this witness? Representative Giraldo.
No, not necessarily a question again, but that's the second 16-year-old that we had present, and I'm just really excited about having so many young people engaged in this process and involved in these conversations. So just want to say kudos to you. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. The next witness is Melanie Dyer. Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Please proceed.
All right, I'm Melanie Dyer. I'm a registered nurse for hospice. I'm also a mother and a grandmother. And I am calling in concern to the House Bill 5604. And I'm opposed to it, and I strongly want you to understand that our children are precious and they're innocent, and you should not be putting forward anything that would be exposing them to sexualizing them, to desensitizing them, to growing them into thinking that this is something that is a normal process of when they're young, and abstaining is a better way to encourage children, protect their health. Nowhere in the teaching of any of this stuff is the danger of the sexually transmitted diseases, the pelvic inflammatory disease that can happen later on, that women, when these young girls grow up, that they might not be able to have babies, and that's a big thing, and no one speaks about that. Encouraging them to go to Planned Parenthood, who not only likes to give treatment without parental or any adult knowledge of what's going on, but also now, potentially giving out, as they've been doing in some states, testosterone to girls who are confused and thinking maybe they want to do something different that's trendy. And it wreaks havoc on your hormones and with no one knowing. And that's just alarming to me on so many levels as a nurse, and as a mom and as a grandmother. So I would prefer that, the basics be held for sexual education, but not to promote it, not to. Am I going too long?
That's 2 minutes.
It's 2 minutes. If you could please conclude. Thank you.
All right. Well, I just feel it's very strong that education is wonderful, and I'm all for it. But there's enough for the teachers to educate about, and I really feel like this kind of stuff needs to be left more so with the families and with their doctors, and on a one-to-one, not peer-to-peer. So peer-to-peer is also a very dangerous thing, and to make everybody feel like everybody's having sex and and all kind of experimental sex and all these different things, and very graphic wording in your proposals here. That it's shocking, and so our children are precious and they're our future, and I don't want to see a damaged generation come out of this. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Are there any questions for this witness? Thank you very much. The next witness that we have is Mr. Andy Andrade. Mr. Andrade, welcome. Please proceed. Same 2-minute warning. Welcome, Mr. Andrade.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I promise I'm going to be concise on this bill. First of all, again, my testimony is very much like the bill with Rep. Lombardi. Rep. Kislak has already mentioned the health care outcomes, and unlike this bill where it talks about starting in grades 6 to 12, sexuality and family life is integrated K through 4 right up until grades 11 and 12. Again, I'm going to send the committee the information that shows all the age-appropriate information. And finally, I'd like to say that we do update this every year, work with the Department of Health. We would certainly be happy to talk with Rep. Kislak and Senator Mack on some of their ideas to be included to make it even a better healthcare outcomes document. Thank you, sir.
And Mr. Andrade, could you please send forward a note for us so Representative Kislak can set up a meeting with you and the health framework advocates so we make sure that we get the language that will enhance that bill. Okay?
Be happy to do that, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Andrade? Thank you very much, Mr. Andrade. Tatum Camacho from Planned Parenthood. Tatum Camacho.
Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's our
My name is Tatum.
It's our pleasure. Please proceed, Ms. Camacho.
Thank you. I'm a 16-year-old peer educator and a junior at Rhode Island High School in Providence, Rhode Island. And I joined a local youth program set up by Planned Parenthood. By joining, I connected to peers who also wanted to manufacture a change. This program, called Students Teaching About Responsible Sexuality, or STARS, gave me the tools and knowledge to uplift the people within my community and advocate for myself or others. STARS gave me the opportunity to advocate for a better sex education curriculum that includes teaching youth to understand what consent is, that's also LGBTQ plus inclusive and a non-judgmental space. Ignorance is a deterrent to the change we want to witness in our community and in our country. Through advocacy, we can counteract it and educate those that need it the most. Sex education isn't trendy, and kids aren't property of their parents. So if they can learn about war in school, then they can learn about autonomy in their own bodies. I want to encourage the youth in my state to take action in their neighborhoods and in their environments to enhance them. When sex ed isn't diverse enough to serve the Rhode Island youth, then it will be doing a disservice to students who won't learn about these topics anywhere else. Thank you so much.
These two to answer. Jerome's on the phone.
Okay, these two don't answer, okay, all right.
To the same person.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much, Ms. Camacho. Very well done, on time. Where do you go to school?
I go to Rhode Island Nurses Institute Middle College. It's in downtown Providence.
Very good. Please tell Mrs. McHugh that we're asking for an excellent school, and you represented your school very well today. Are there any questions for Ms. Camacho? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Jerome Squadrito. And the Squadritos, they don't want to do it? And if I could just mention, we have on our sign-up sheets a area that's called, we ask, what is your affiliation? And I want to make it very clear, when we ask what your affiliation is, it is an organization that you may represent. It is not your political party affiliation. I noticed someone signed up as a Republican. What we want to know is if you're representing Planned Parenthood, Family Services, the YMCA, a union. We're not asking for your political party affiliation. So I just want to make that clear, because there seems to be a little bit of a misunderstanding.
And they don't have to put anything if they...
And you don't have to put anything. We're ready for the Squadritos? Oh, Mr. Thomas Hines. Mr. Hines, welcome, and please proceed.
Hello?
Hello, Mr. Hines, welcome, and please proceed.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so should I just start talking, or how does this
Yeah,
work?
you can just start talking. Try to take approximately 2 minutes. Be concise. Thanks.
Okay. So I'm a pediatrician. I do take care of kids. I just have several concerns as I read through the bill. I think there's a huge range of variability and maturity level, and I'm concerned about that among kids. I'm concerned about the wording of affirmatively recognized pleasure-based sexual relations. I think that's an unusual phrase to throw in a bill like that. There's obviously a lot concerning sexual orientation, same-sex relationships, gender expression. And I'll just say my experience in light of those subjects, a lot of it is based on ideology and politics. Not a lot of it is based on solid science. And my personal experience in the last 5 years is increasing confusion among young people, especially during puberty, confusion about gender dysphoria. So the concern I have is when the school brings that kind of curriculum into the program, I think in general it's going to lead to even more confusion. I mean, kids are driven to the internet, they're driven to social media, they're driven to their friends, and they got bad sources of information. I also find that all debate and dissenting opinion is often squashed at various levels, but I would say good people, smart people have strongly different opinions when it comes to some of these issues. But I would say the other thing to be aware of is most gender confusion resolves by the end of puberty, which is what I've seen in practice practically. But those would be my big concerns. I think the wording of it and the inclusion of things when it comes to... say that again?
That is 2 minutes, so if we can...
Okay,
bring it to
all
a
right.
conclusion. It's fine.
Okay.
Say that
Thank-
again?
Thank you. Dr. Hines, would you like to conclude, or?
Yeah, the only final thing I would only say is just, everything that that first paragraph includes, I think, is appropriate for all gender, all sexes, all ages, meaning safe sex, meaning of consent, all that. I think that's that's appropriate. I think that's fine. I'm just concerned with some of the wording then of once it starts saying provided further, I'm concerned with that whole section.
Thank you, Dr. Hines. Are there any questions for Dr. Hines? Thank you very much for your testimony, sir.
All right, you're welcome.
Thank you. Kara Young signed in opposition. We have several individuals who have called in. Tanya Camacho we have. Miguel Cabrera is opposed to this. Peter Hewitt is opposed. Travis Reimer is opposed. Peter J. Lapp is opposed. Jennifer Lima is supportive. Kirkland and Melanie Dyer are opposed. Jerome J. Squadrito is opposed. Helena Stacy is supportive. Jordan Goyette, Warwick resident, is supportive. Hillary Levy Friedman, doctor, president of Rhode Island Now, is in support of this. Louis Borgen is opposed. Kella Holak is supportive. Paula McDonald of West Kingston is opposed. Bernie Demers is opposed. Jalen Fox, the Women's Project, is supportive. Mary Chase of Riverside is also supportive. ACLU, our friend Hannah Stern is supportive. Marv Wisen, Brown University student, is, I believe, supportive. Catherine Jones is supportive. Planned Parenthood, Mr. Craig O'Connor is supportive. Mary Kate Wright is supporter. Nicole Jelinek, Rhode Island Coalition for Reproductive Health is supportive. Michael T. Bryans of Bristol is opposed. Ellie Carroll is supportive. Patricia Cole is supportive. Jessica Purcell is in support. Pamela Shapiro is supporter. And Shana Wells of West Warwick is also supportive. Well, we had quite a bit of activity on that, Representative Kislak, and I think we have some materials coming in from several sources that will, help us possibly amend or do, you can look at and discuss, some room for discussion. Are there any further questions on House Bill 56? Carrie Young said, I'm not available to give verbal testimony because of a time conflict. Please read this into the record that I'm against the bill. So, duly
Chairman,
noted.
can I make a comment before we close?
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you. First, I want to echo Representative Geraldo's words to all of the young people we had testified tonight, especially the young women who work with the STARS program at Planned Parenthood. That is important work, and it probably always isn't easy work, and you are really doing an excellent public service. So, sometimes culture shifts help us change the law, right? When more people become accepted of, marriage between same-sex couples, we saw more and more states, pass laws legalizing marriage between same-sex couples. And sometimes we can pass laws that help affect positive change to our culture. And I think this is one of our opportunities to do that. We see over time how difficult it is for young people who don't feel accepted and they don't feel comfortable to talk about who they are and themselves. And passing a law like this, which adds to a statute that already still will talk about the dangers of sexually transmitted diseases and all of the responsibilities that come with being a sexually active or not sexually active young person. I think this really has an opportunity to do a lot of good, even for the kids' mental health, like Representative Lombardi was discussing. So I'll be very happy to see what comes of the discussions between the senator and representative and I about what they can all get on board with. And I think that will be a really important update. So I am appreciative of the folks who called in support and of this work.
Thank you, Representative Caldwell. Any further comments or discussion? Very good. That concludes the hearing on 5604. And with that, I'd just like to recognize the members that are here today. Representative Barrows of Pawtucket, who sponsored that bill with the Pawtucket legislation with me. Representative Amore of East Providence, and Representative Caldwell of East Greenwich. Very well said, Representative Caldwell, especially I'm a little bit prejudiced because you're a Pilgrim High School graduate in my district in Warwick. Representative Donovan of Bristol is joining us today, and the weather's getting a little nicer, so she's starting to probably work on the bottom of the yacht and get it ready to put in so she can take it to the State House. Representative Fenton Fung has also joined us. Thank you very much, from beautiful Western Cranston. Representative Giraldo is with us from Central Falls, and you're all Central Falls, right, Representative? All Central Falls, all of the time. Very good. And Representative Kislak from the fashionable East Side is with us today, and she brought forth that exciting legislation. Representative Phillips, who represents Woonsocket and a little bit of Cumberland, and Representative Roberts is with us all the way out from Coventry, and her district is Coventry, and I want to say a little bit of West Greenwich. Is that Representative Roberts? I think it, I believe, is that true?
Correct. That's correct. Thank you, Chairman.
Very good. So from all the way out there, she does a great job, and our very own early childhood specialist, Representative Shilcorp Smith of Lincoln, and a little bit of Pawtucket. So she's, and with Representative Barrows and Kislak, and we're very pleased to have her expertise in early childhood education, the official Dr. Daycare of our committee. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you very much. The Committee on Health, the Committee on Education. Woo! Almost brought back health with this committee. That's all we need. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a great evening. Thank you for your testimony and participation.